And welcome back to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And welcome back to day 2 of the Dead Festival. My Dead Festival, where I have chosen 9 of these little Dead universe, Night of the Living Dead, and spin-offs, remakes, Return of the Living Dead, just some of the movies that people consider in the orbit of this franchise. And we are going to pick up and start, now that we've done Night of the Living Dead, we are going to do Dawn of the Dead. This is the remake, of course. This is Zack Snyder's remake. I love having this. It's really cool. Everybody made a big deal about the theatrical version finally being on Blu-ray. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I don't like theatrical versions of anything if there's a director's cut. I think there's only 2 movies that I can recall that the director's cut is inferior, or, well, actually only one that's inferior. The other is just nothing, really. And that is, sort of neutral. And that is, the one that's inferior is Mimic. Mira Sorvino? Mimic. The director's cut, I don't know what the fuck he was doing. The director's cut is awful. The director's cut, it's like he tried to make it less of a horror movie, and I'm like, why? That's what Mimic is a horror movie. And he cut out some really cool scenes and wanted to put in more scenes about her and her husband's relationship and stuff like that. And I'm like, but it sucks. The director's cut of Mimic sucks. The other one that I was speaking of is Alien. Ridley Scott. The director's cut is, it has 2 really interesting scenes. Other than that, it's the exact same as the theatrical. There's these really cool scenes. I'm not saying those scenes aren't cool, but you could just include those as an extra, So the theatrical version is really the best of Alien. The other one is just like, why? It's the exact same movie except for 2 scenes. But those scenes are really cool, and I'm really glad to have them and seen them. But as far as them needing a whole nother movie for, I just didn't understand it. Other than those 2 films, I'm always going to choose the director's cut. Longer, extended scenes that the MPAA, whatever, made them take out. And I always want to see the true representation of what the movie was supposed to be. And so far, like I said, those are the only 2 I could bring to mind in which I think it went wrong, or was unnecessary in one case, and the other was just horrible. Guillermo del Toro, or whatever, that asshole. I'm like, I don't know why you fucked up that movie and called it a director's cut, but that just sucked. But, and I don't mean to shade on him because he's made one of my favorite movies of all time, The Devil's Backbone. You know what I'm saying? But it's just a big fuck up. But anyway, also another reason is that I do not have the original, which I love the original Dawn of the Dead. What is that, 1980, I think? But you can't get it. I mean, honestly, I looked everywhere, and they want $40 and $50 for it. And half the time it's a region B, and you're going to have a region free Blu-ray player to get it. And the other ones are it's just ridiculously priced, and I'm like, I'm not doing that for a movie. I mean, maybe I'll find it some other way. I could download it or something like that, but I'm a collector. I gotta have stuff in my greedy hands. So this is the next in the series. Zack Snyder's version is absolutely phenomenal, and I'll tell you right up front, that the battle for the number one movie in this little circle of mine around this is these first two that I'm doing. Night of the Living Dead from 1990 and this, the 2004 Zack Snyder remake, are pretty much in a very tight competition for the number one spot of these movies, of me loving them. So, this movie starts out with Anna, who is a nurse at a hospital, talking to a doctor, discussing some patient that was brought in who had gotten bit during a fist fight at a bar. And the doctor is questioning as to, well, what does that justify having a head CAT scan that you're handing me? And she's like, I don't know. I mean, that's just what the other doctor wanted. Something's went on. He came in last night and he's unresponsive now, and he was fine then, but he's unresponsive now, and he wanted a brain anyway. I'm going home. So she leaves and she goes home. You get to meet her husband, and they spend, date night together, and then they go to bed, and then they're woken up by that little girl that you had seen her talking to when she first came home the afternoon before. And that little girl, she's upset. And she rips her husband's throat out, and then, she tries to help him, and she kicks the little girl out the door, and tries to help her husband, and calls 911, and just that quick he turns. It was very familiar. I mean, it was very similar to 28 Days Later, how fast they turn. Really cool cinematography as she's knocked through the window. I mean, into the bathroom, and she ends up getting out the window right before he gets her, and then he's chasing her until he gets distracted by another neighbor and goes and attacks them instead. That's how mindless these things are. But they're fast and aggressive, which is why this is in the top, which is kind of interesting now that I stop and think about it. I'm on the fence. I prefer Fast and Furious, yet the two top contenders, one is traditional creeper zombies and the other is fast, rage, aggressive zombies. So it's kind of interesting. So she ends up running, crashes her car, meets up with the guy, what was that, Ving Rhames, directed by, Did I introduce this movie? I don't think so. It was released in 2004, directed by Zack Snyder, written by George A. Romero and James Gunn, stars Sarah Polley, Ving Rhames, and Mekhi Phifer. So she runs into his character, and he's like a cop, and they end up running into Andre. Look at your notes, Rusty, and quit trying to remember stuff. Details. They run into three other survivors, Mike, Andre, and Luda. So Andre and Luda are together, and she's 8.9. She's 8.9 months pregnant, right? So she's right at the point of giving birth, and that comes in later in an unfortunate way. So they run into them, Ken. That's why I was confusing Ben with Ken earlier. You see what I'm saying? So they end up, well, what are you going to do? And it's well, we're going to go to the mall, because the mall was closed, right? So they're going to go to the mall. They go to the mall. They get in there. There's a lot of really cool scenes. That Asian guy that right when they was getting in the back door, and that was a fucked up scene. They get in there. They look around, checking the place out. They run into a couple Zeds here and there. I know Andre runs into that one in that one store, and then she's attacked by what we later find out is one of the security guards. That was pretty fucked up. So there's a lot of really cool scenes and dialogue and character development as you get to learn about these people. they decide to go up to administration, where they run into 3 security guards. Terry, who I loved. Bart, who was just like, yeah. And CJ, who was like, total fucking asshole. I cannot stand that guy. But he redeemed himself. But at first, his character was like, I thought it was going to be Harry from Night of the Living Dead. I mean, I really didn't like that guy. So they turn out to be like real assholes at the beginning. There's 8 of them now. They end up going up there and watching the news. They discuss the problems, any plans they could come up with. I wrote CJ as an asshole. They paint SOS on the roof. Mike and the others don't like those 3 security guards. They want to all get to this rescue camp called Fort Pasture. Terry and Bart are just idiots. See, I always make little comments in my notes to remind myself. Terry actually, though, changes sides, and they actually lock up CJ and Bart, because it's like, you two are like interfering with our ability to think properly and try to figure a way out of this with your macho machismo bullshit, which I totally agree with. So Terry actually switches sides with them, and they like lock them up. So there's a lot of cool dialogue. We see a truck of survivors arrive with a few more survivors, and the first thing that and I did write that, I was like, why they let the fat infected lady in? I did wonder that. That's like the only flaw in this movie. And then, people will be like, I'm sure that some of you would answer, well, they didn't know what infected looks like. Remember, these people are not really quite aware of what's going on. Well, I'm sorry, but if you've seen this movie, you saw that fat lady. Okay? I don't care whether I knew the actual scientific details of all this, or whether I had heard news reports. No one would have to tell me anything. Look what's going on. Look at this bitch. She's gray and little black streaks, and she's got a blue mouth and all that kind of crap. And I'm like, what do you think that she has? A cold? I mean, so that's the only flaw in this movie to me is like what I wrote. Why did they let the fat infected lady in? Because I didn't get it. I mean, you could obviously tell. Even if I don't know what's going on with these ads, I know that ain't right. and that is probably connected. So that's kind of what I didn't really get, They do figure it out, though, at this point because of her, because she dies and then revives. Now, this sets up a little problem because one of the survivors, Frank, who's the guy that played Max Headroom, he was bit. And they all know that. And what we didn't know, though, what nobody else knew except for Andre, was that Luda had been bit as well. So Andre immediately goes and isolates her and kind of stays away from everybody because he's all freaky about this baby and stuff. Frank, that was really sad because once everybody knew what this was, he knew he was be going soon. And his daughter, Nicole, whom I hate that character. I can't stand that girl. And I didn't hate her from the beginning, but when she pulled that crap here a little later on, I was like, just... I ain't going to rescue her. That's all I got to say, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So... that scene where, Frank has to say goodbye to her and Ken stays with him because he wanted to spend his life. What he said was really profound, because he was already turning. His daughter got out and she went and hid, and, because, waiting for the gunshot. And Ken was like crying, and he looked at him and he said, Frank said, I just want every second, and I think Ken was like really, he was a really soulful dude, because the way he just like understood and was just like watched him until he died, sitting there died. And he actually waited until he died and revived before he shot him. Because he could have shot him at any time. And Frank could have, and I think that's what Frank meant when he said that about, I just want every second, was probably because Ken was looking at him and he was looking at Ken. And it was probably like, a lot of people would go, well, like, go ahead and do it, But I think I agree with Frank, and I think that Ken did too. I think that was very soulful in a zombie, in a Zed flick. I suddenly felt like I was watching Maggie with Arnold Schwarzenegger, all emotional, But so Frank spent his last second, and it really did kind of break me when, he said, I just want every second. And then you hear the shot, and so that was it for that. So Frank turns, they kill him. We also see now that Luda is turning, and he's got her like strapped down on a bed because he wants that baby. And I kind of wanted to go, dude, I know you're all freaky, but she's a fucking Zed. And I think what he was hoping was that the baby would come before she turned. And I kind of wanted like to tap on the monitor and go, dude, I don't really think it matters. It's in the blood. And so whether she has the baby before she turns or not, I don't think is really going to matter. The baby's already infected, So he tries to deliver the baby. We have the parking garage scene where they have to go down because the power goes out, so they go down to try to find the generators, and that's where a cool scene where Bart gets eaten. And I didn't really feel any particular way about that. Like I said before, he was an asshole, but he was just one of those dumb jock bros, and I don't think that is a death sentence. I think you're a retard. I think you're a... Oh my gosh, can you say any words these days without being canceled? Oh, fuck it. I think he was a fucking retard. And, but I don't think, being a dipshit retard bro is worthy of a death sentence. So I'm like, I didn't feel like, ooh, I'm glad Bart got eaten. At that point, I would have been a lot better if CJ had gotten eaten. But, so, that was a cool scene, though. And they ended up, like, setting them on fire. And that's actually where your opinion of CJ changed, was right there at that scene. Because you saw now he was with the crowd. He wasn't as much of an asshole as you thought he was. He was trying to be helpful. And I'm like, oh, wow, we have a redemption. We have a character redemption. So that was pretty cool. So Bart gets eaten. Luda dies and revives before she has the baby. And it comes out after she revives. So it was like freaky when he like went down and was like laid his head on the stomach. Probably thought, well, it's dead, And instead it like moved and shit. And I'm like, oh no, I would run. Dude, I would run. But it comes out. What was her name? That woman, Norma. So Norma ends up going to check on him because Anna was going to go check on him, but then Norma went to check on him. And when she got there, she saw, Luda tied to the bed, and she was a complete Zed and was trying to break free and was snappy. And, he had put that horse bit thing in her mouth. That was kind of weird. And he's holding a baby. And you don't really know what's going to happen, you know? It's like, well, is the baby going to like... Is it going to be an It's Alive moment? Is the baby going to like... Is he going to throw... This is what I thought. I thought that he was going to throw the baby on her. Like, don't shoot Luda, bitch. Sick. Sicker. That's what I thought was going to happen. I'm like, oh God, he's going to throw that baby on her. And it's going to like eat her. You know, he's going to use it like a pit bull. Which actually would have been pretty cool. So, she's like, no, I'm not having it. I'm shooting that. So she shot Luda, and he starts shooting her. They end up like shooting each other dead. And then Anna and all them hear the gunfire, and they come in, you know, they come running. And that was a really good scene because they went up to it because he fell back. Andre fell back on the bed, and they went up, and she like pulled the blanket back on the baby. And that was kind of reminded me of the cover of that Black Sabbath album. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that baby was excellent special effects. That baby looked good as a little Zed baby. And it did that thing. And they didn't show Anna shoot it, but Anna shot it. And you were like, oh, how brave, you know, of him putting something like that. She shot a baby Zed in the thing. But understandable. However, you know, Andre was holding that baby. It didn't attack Andre. Right? So I don't know. I mean, I'm second guessing, like, whether you should shoot the baby. But what else are you going to do? I mean, she's certainly not going to let it nurse. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, maybe you could try to feed it or something. I don't know. That's all fucked up. Give it a blood bottle, you know. But that was really good special effects. So, it's at this point that they're all like, look, this shit has gotten way too real, and we just need to do whatever we're going to do, you know, which means getting the fuck out of here and come up with a plan. So they come up with this plan, which is actually a really good one, you know, because they're all like, you know, well, I don't want to sit around here and wait to die one by one. We get picked off in little incidents. And so, and this is the one time CJ made me laugh, right? Because they were like, well, hey, look, here's the thing. There's 2 buses down there. We can, like, rig them. You know, we can like trick them out in Mad Max fashion. And we can like drive our ass out of here and get to the marina, get on his boat, which we can go to some island. And there won't be any Zeds there, right? Or there's a possibility there wouldn't be any Zeds there. And I'm like, well, you better be making sure you go to a deserted island then, you know, because I don't know. It's still a good idea. So they trick out these things, and then that brings us to Andy, whom I haven't mentioned, even though he's been in this movie the whole time, and that is that across the street from the mall, there's a gun shop, and the owner, Andy, of Andy's gun, whatever, he's on the roof like they are, and they're like seeing each other. And they're looking through binoculars, and they're like giving each other messages, which really reminded me of that zombie movie Alone, because that's what him and that girl were doing, where they were having to hold up messages on boards to talk to each other. That brings a side note here. You know what I'd like to see? A movie like that. I mean, Alone is kind of like that, and then you have this scene. But I'm talking about a movie where, like, some kind of zombie outbreak has happened that no one has ever been able to stop. It's sort of like Resident Evil kind of zombies that just never die. And so the world has changed to where everybody lives above ground. Like they made bridges on the rooftops to each other, and going down there is dangerous. So everybody's had to make a life above the streets and sort of block off everything. They have to live in the sky. I think that would be a really cool movie. If any indie directors out there get a hold of this, give me credit. That's all I gotta say. So they've been doing this the whole time, and he's starving over there, and they find it out. So they figure out a way, and that is to take this little dog that they had found in the parking garage scenes, and they can put food on that, and they can put it down there, and it can go carry him some food until they're ready to do this thing, this plan. Good idea, because the Zeds don't care nothing about the dog. So he goes over there, and Andy comes down and gets the food, but a couple of the Zeds get through the door. His little door thing. And this is where I started hating Nicole, because Nicole goes and grabs the truck that the original survivors came in, the one with the fat infected lady in it, and Norma and all them, Frank and all of them. So she grabs that and she goes over there, and I'm like, that really pissed me off. I mean, things affect people differently in movies. I instantly disliked her. I'm like, fucking retard. What a moron. I'm like, you know what? If y'all go after her to rescue the idiot, it's just going to be stupid. That's exactly what they did. But I wouldn't have, because I'm like, look, if you're going to do something stupid like that over a dog, I know. People and your dogs. Like, I would die for my dog. Well, go ahead. But I'm not going to stop you. And I'm not going to help you, because it's fucking idiotic. So I would have let her go. I'd have been like, good for her, whatever, I hope her and the dog are happy together in the afterlife. They can throw bones at each other and chase things around the daisy field. I don't know. But I'm certainly not going to risk my ass for some idiot that does what she does to try to get a hold of a dog. How many times have I said stuff that's going to cancel me now? I don't know. But anyway, so she goes to save the dog. And I think this was wishful thinking, because when I wrote it, because I'm watching the movie, right, and I'm taking notes, and I said she takes truck to go save dog, and then I wrote, and gets deservedly eaten. And then, of course, the next scene started happening, and I had to scratch that out. So I'm like, that's what you get for writing shit before it happens. You're just making assumptions. And I'm like, well, I think I must have wrote that because that's what I expected to happen, and probably what I wanted to happen. So I had to scratch through that. And then I put, that they went through the sewer to try to get to over there to rescue Nicole. And I'm like, why didn't y'all think of that to begin with? You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you thought about the sewer system to get over there next to Andy, why didn't you think about that before you caused all this trouble? So that may have been the second flaw. Logic flaw, not film flaw, just a logic flaw. So they go over there and they do manage to find her and they get her, but they have to kill Andy, which was pretty fucked up. They go back to the mall. They get to the buses. And let me tell you, the bus stuff was cool. I mean, come on. It was cool. I mean, they really were Mad Max tricked out. And so that was an excellent bus ride, when they had to blow up that tank to get through the crowd. And then you have that, but I don't understand why they were going so fast, though, because they caused one of them to turn over. And, oh, poor, what was her name? It wasn't Nicole. The blonde chick who was with Steve, who was another guy I hated. I was really glad when he died. But the blonde chick that was with Steve, the poor organ guy from church, he's like got the chainsaw. That chainsaw would like Leatherface would love that chainsaw. It was like really long. You could like get people from across the room. But he like accidentally, because when the truck flipped over, he was like trying to saw them, and it like sawed that girl in half. And I'm like, peripheral vision. Be aware in troubled situations of your environment and your surroundings, because she should have seen that coming. You know, like, don't get next to a guy holding a chainsaw in a moving bus. That's all I gotta say. So that was like terrible, and it killed him. The impact killed him. Steve tried to take off. Ken made it through it. The other bus stops. They go back. Steve gets attacked and turned, which is deserved, and they have to blow him away, which, like I said, I was very glad about that. And that's when they do get to the marina, and then CJ tops himself, sacrifices himself by using that big propane tank to blow up all the Zeds. So you're left with the survivors, which is Anna and Ken and Terry. We'll call them survivors for the moment. Anna, Ken, Terry, Mike, and Nicole make it to the boat. But then Mike, whom they very subtly showed you when Mike realized he had been bitten. But he went ahead and fought on until they got to the boat, and then he let them know, I'm gone. So he agrees that he's got to stay, and he can't go with them. That was very, very sad, because he was a cool character. That was very sad. And then he tops himself there. And then the movie kind of ends with them going. However, then it doesn't end, because during the credits, they show you what happens. A little bit of credits, a little bit of film, a little bit of credits, a little bit of film. And they showed that they arrived at the island that they were going to, and they got off the boat, and they went up to the island, and then they were completely barraged by hordes of Zeds. So you're like, well, that wasn't a happy ending at all. All that work, and it meant absolutely fucking nothing. Now, there's a really cool, and that was the end of the movie, of course. And this movie is like a 9.4 out of 10 to me. You're like, well, why is it a 9.4 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10? Well, I'll tell you. We all have our little personal perspectives, and I'm so sick. I understand heteros rule the world. I understand that. But do you have to have this little thing in every movie, please? Do you have to in every movie? The Terry and Nicole thing? Oh, you're just jealous. Well, fuck it then. Anyway, so this release has a couple of really cool extra features on it, and that is, first of all, we have one called Andy's Lost Tape. Now, what that does is, you didn't know it, but during the movie, but Andy has a videotape recorder, and he's in there, and he's filming his journey through this movie. So the whole time we've been watching what's happening with him, he's been filming what's happening to him. And I don't know, it's like 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes long. It's sort of like a little short movie. And you get to hear Andy's backstory, and you get to hear, you get to see what's happening, and it even, at the end of it, coincides with when they came to try to rescue him when Nicole showed up. He runs back up there when he gets bitten. You get to see all that. So that was really cool. Another one on here is called Special Report Zed Invasion. That's really good because it's a little short film, and it is from the perspective of a newscaster who is played by the Doctor from Babylon 5. The black guy. So this whole little short film is from the beginning to the ending of the zombie outbreak. And you got a lot of backstory, and you got a lot of these news reports and him covering it. That was really cool. So yeah, I wanted to mention those two cool features. So why is this at the top of my list? I think Zack Snyder, whom, by the way, when his little intro to this director's cut, the unrated director's cut, which really is a hell of a lot more gory and bloody than the theatrical version, it's phenomenal. But his intro, which was filmed at the time the unrated director's cut was released, which was what, 2011 or something like that. He seeing that intro made me realize that Zack Snyder, dude, I don't know what happened to you. You have not aged well, man. You look like you've been drinking fucking tequila for the last 20 years. I don't know what happened to you, but you did not age well. I know that's really rude to throw into a video praising this movie, but the truth has to be said. And I'm just a bitch that way. But yeah, dude, I don't know what happened to you, because you're like, if you look at him now and you look at the intro in 2011, dude, it looks like you look like you've been rode hard for a long, 2 decades now. So it didn't work out well for you. Have you ever heard of moisturizer? It's okay for guys to wear moisturizer. Just letting you know that, in case you care. But, yeah. His work on this film is fucking phenomenal. This is an absolutely fantastic, aggressive, fast Zed side of the fence. I love everything about this movie. The characters. Anna was great. I like Mike. I liked Ken. I liked Terry. CJ was an ass at first, but he turned out to be cool. Andre was an idiot. But I understand. But it was still, what he did was idiotic. But yeah, great characters. Absolutely great reimagining of this movie. I would really love to have the original. I have seen the original from 1980 or 79, 80, 81. It was right there somewhere. But I don't think it's sitting there. Is it sitting there? Yeah, it is. 1978. The makeup looks terrible, but it's a really good movie. I like it too, and I think that this is a fantastic re-imaging of it. And yeah, so in honesty, it's a 10 out of 10, but I just had to be a bitch about, got to like throw in that little crap, which I saw absolutely unnecessary. And that was Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake. Let me know what you think about it. And let me know what you think about the fact that it's almost impossible to get the damn original because they want so much money for it. It's fucking ridiculous. Scream Factory needs to get a hold of it and make an affordable new one or something, because it's just retarded. I'd like to have it, but that's okay. I like this one too, and this is just as good, if not better. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. Always remember, never forget, you're a very special person. No matter what anybody tries to feed you, it's incorrect. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.